this video, we're going to learn how to conjugate nouns and adjectives. Though we conjugate verbs in English, for example by making them past tense by adding ed, we don't do the same for nouns and adjectives. Instead, we add other words like not, was, or wasn't. However, in Japanese, we change the noun or adjective itself, rather than adding these modifying words. First, let's talk about adjectives. There are two types of adjectives, and the two types are conjugated differently. The two types are i-adjectives and na-adjectives. I-adjectives are easier to understand because, at least at first glance, they are similar to adjectives in English. They go before the noun they're modifying, and that's all you have to do. For example, this adjective means red. Putting it before ball creates red ball. To conjugate i-adjectives to negative form, change the final i to kunai. I-adjectives always end with i, hence their name. This means not red. For past tense form, just change i to katta. This means was red. For negative past tense, first conjugate to past tense, then change the last i to katta. This means wasn't red. You can also make i-adjectives into nouns, like we can in English by adding ness. For example, coolness or interestingness. To make i-adjectives into noun form, change the final i to sa. For example, this means redness. The i-adjective stem, that is, the adjective with the final i removed, can have various other words attached to it for different meanings. This is a verb that means to pass, and can be added to stems to mean too much. Here's an example. This means too red. This suguru form can also mean very, for example, very expensive, rather than that it is literally too much. The other type of adjective in Japanese is the na-adjective. Unlike i-adjectives, na-adjectives are not true adjectives at all, but actually special types of nouns. They can only modify other nouns when followed by na. Here's an example. This means quiet room. For negative, add janai. This means not quiet. For past tense, add datta. This means was quiet. For negative past tense, add janakatta. This means wasn't quiet. Remember that when conjugated to any of these forms, the na-adjectives do not need na after them, since they have essentially become either i-adjectives or verb phrases. So how can you tell the difference between the two adjective types? Well, 99% of the time it's pretty easy. I-adjectives are typically one kanji with an i after them. Na-adjectives are one or two kanji with no kana after them. There are exceptions, such as ski, but you can tell that this is a na-adjective because the kana following it is not i. There are very few na-adjectives with a trailing i, and only one, kirai, is common. You may sometimes see adjectives which exist in both forms. Here are a couple of examples. Finally, an adverb is an adjective which modifies a verb. For example, quickly, as in, he runs quickly. To make an i-adjective into its adverbial form, change the final i to ku. Here's an example. This means he runs quickly. To make a na-adjective into its adverbial form, simply add ni. Here's an example. This means walked quietly. Thanks for watching. Next week, we're going to get into the really powerful techniques of Japanese verb conjugation.